All right, Jose, who's speaking first today?
You got it. You got it. You can break the ice.
All right. Hopefully nothing else will break in the process. Oh, so it's August 11th, and somehow we were running around so much we missed last week, but we thought it was important to do another update because there's been a real escalation on the military front and on the disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, targeting of truth tellers. And I will just begin by saying that the real issue is the blowout of the transatlantic financial system. They cannot save it, no matter how many people they kill, no matter how many wars they launch all over the place. We've created this gigantic bubble of quadrillions of dollars with nothing to back it up in the West. Now, that's a totally different story if you look at the BRICS nations, where China's built, what is it, 30,000 kilometers of new high-speed rail in the last 10 years or so.
Certainly more than us.
Well, we built the Second Avenue subway in 10 years.
Yeah, right. That only goes like a mile or something.
All right. Well, don't knock it. That's better than a lot of other things we've been doing lately.
Sure.
So why don't you go ahead and say a little bit about what you've been doing, and then I'll take up some of the matters that have happened to our friends.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've been putting up posters in different bodegas. Actually, maybe Diane, I don't know if you can pull those up now or not on Twitter. Maybe I should have given you ahead of time, but actually, some people are already watching on Twitter anyway. So if you go on my profile, you'll see my latest tweet that we're up over 200 different stores that have put up our posters in their bodegas, pharmacies, barbershops, whatever it is. And we've been getting a lot of success and engagement in the streets that, we are letting people know that I'm a candidate, I'm on the ballot, and that people should consider working with me, not necessarily to get me elected, although that would be great, but to help me stop nuclear war and help me stop the destruction of the world. I ran into a woman in the streets just yesterday, and she was fanatic about the fact that all these local politicians are driving rent prices way, way, way up, and that they build these new housing projects and they only leave 10% of the actual new buildings that are built to be part of the affordable, for affordable housing. And then so she said that people are being priced out of their neighborhoods. And that, then I said, well, do you know who Richie Torres is? And the first thing she said was, of course I do. That Israel sellout who only cares more about Israel than he does the Bronx. And, she became even more fanatic about that. And I just said, I signed her up right there. And I said, great, you're the exact kind of person I want working on my campaign. And that's characteristic of a lot of the conversations that we've been having in the streets and just getting to know people and rounding up, our volunteers. And then on Monday nights, Diane and I have been having different calls with people. And if they want to volunteer for that or RSVP for that, they can go on my website, which I'll make a thing here, votevega.nyc/RSVP. And you can also be a part of our Monday night Zoom calls, where we've had people on like Dennis Fritz, Matthew Ho, Garland Nixon, Larry Johnson, Ray McGovern, and all these other people. And we basically talk about what we've done in the week and what we're going to do in the week for both of our campaigns. And finally, we were part of an international peace coalition call that included people like Ray McGovern, former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, an Israeli peace negotiator whose name I forget, and of course, Larry Wilkerson and Helga Zepp-LaRouche. And Larry Wilkerson just gave a great speech, which I think is now up on the Schiller Institute YouTube channel. So people should definitely go watch that and check that out. But that's just a little bit of what we've been doing this week, Diane.
Yeah, his name, I think, is Dr. Gershon Baskin. And he is extremely important. And I thought it was a very good lesson for people on the call because he's Israeli. And he said, you're dealing with trauma October 7th and also the Nakba. And he also said the U.S. is a terrible negotiator because it does everything weighted toward Israel. And I think we have to think carefully to negotiate for peace when you have a situation which has been exacerbated in this way. And by the way, the death toll in Gaza, really nobody knows. The Israelis took the opportunity of Bibi Netanyahu's coasting on his buffer of 58 standing ovations in front of the US Congress to bomb at least 2 schools this week, one of which had 6,000 people in it, killing somewhere between 100 and 200 children in that one. It's just unbelievable. And I will say that on the street organizing, my husband, who was out in Manhattan yesterday, reported a guy went by and said, we should kill all 2 million of them. And Chris said, oh, and starting with the children and women first, right? So the guy comes back in a white hot rage and says, I'm going to come back with a bunch of my friends and we're going to level your table and we're going to.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is not some peaceful, they're even fanatics in the US. And there's a lot of Americans like this guy, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, who Kamala was considering for vice president. He actually volunteered to serve with the IDF. So think about it. Who would want to serve? This is why I'm proud to say, frankly, that the US Army is having a hard time recruiting. It's not merely that a lot of our young people are terribly out of shape and have all kinds of illnesses, which is also a problem. But people don't want to be in a ground war for Ukraine against Russia. People don't want to commit genocide in Gaza. Aaron Bushnell made that case very, very clear with his ultimate protest. So I want to go now to what's happened. 2 things. One, the case of Tulsi Gabbard, where it turns out she's been put on a TSA, Transportation Security Agency list, something called Quiet Skies, of alleged people who might be terrorists. The Tulsi Gabbard served in the U.S. House of Representatives. She ran for president, and I believe she's still active duty National Guard. The woman is a patriot. She is not a terrorist. But apparently, when she takes a plane starting as of July 23rd, they assign something like 3 federal air marshals to tail her, to sit with her in the airplane and monitor how many times she uses the restroom or whether she brushes her teeth or not, and then follow her off the plane, bomb sniffing dogs. And she said she had not been aware of this, but she found it very odd when she was coming back from a conference in Italy that at every transfer, she had to get off the plane and go through 45 minutes of searches where they were patting down. She said that even the hems of my suit jackets, everything. And one of the agents said to her, I've never seen someone with a military ID be going through this kind of security screening. Now, Tulsi, when she was in Italy, had made a very short video on TikTok where she reminded everyone that Kamala Harris is not qualified to be president of the United States, that she doesn't know a thing about foreign policy, and she was a horrible prosecutor in California. And people may remember that Tulsi finished her off in one fell swoop in the debates in 2020, right, for her record. So that was that. Then we have our friend and collaborator, Scott Ritter, who had his home raided for 5.5 hours by the FBI, supposedly because they're investigating him for a violation of Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA. Now, he said normally if they think you're violating FARA, they send you a letter and they ask, are you receiving compensation from foreign governments to do things that would influence American policy or whatever their standards are? There was no letter. Instead, it was a package of FBI agents delivered to his house. He said they were relatively polite, but the odd thing was not only did they take his laptop, his cell phone, they took the the safes in his basement with all of his documents from when he was a UN weapons inspector, claiming that he might be selling classified information. And as he said, the CIA already told the FBI, I guess years ago, or when they did some other raid, Scott has been telling the truth about many things, so he's been under a lot of harassment, that once any document is handed to the UN, it is not classified. It has gone to the United Nations. This is not a classified document. It just absolutely doesn't apply. Apparently, they also took the transcript of the latest book that he's working on.
Wow.
And then either that night or the following day, he was swatted, and the police were sent a series of emails claiming to come from him, saying that someone in the home was going to carry out a mass shooting. Now, had Scott not been on friendly terms with the police department there, perhaps due to his stint as a volunteer firefighter, or, he knows the police, they might have come in and just shot someone. I mean, who knows? So I am very concerned about for his safety, because what you're dealing with are people who think nothing of unaliving, to use the word, someone that they accuse of disinformation. And I want to show a couple of the lists. Scott Ritter's name is on several lists. This is one that I was placed on in 2022, the Ukrainian Center for Combating Disinformation, and vacancies. They should have a lot of vacancies. Documents, maybe that's where it is. Basically, what they say is that if you say that Ukraine is not winning the war, then you are an information terrorist, and you should be tried for war crimes. So Helga Tsepp-LaRouche was on this when it began in 2022, or I guess they say this is from 2021. Let's see what they say about themselves. At any rate, they had 30 speakers from a Schiller Institute conference. They had Scott Ritter, they had Tulsi Gabbard, Rand Paul, and others. Now, apparently this list was used as a feeder for this list, Mirot Foretz, otherwise known as Peacemaker. You see here the Russian spokeswoman for the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova. You see an address here, Langley, Virginia. I'm not sure if that's a feint or not. There are people who say that it is not. At any rate, we know and you can see this fabulous photograph here of a bunch of dead people.
You're not sharing your screen, by the way, Diane. I don't know if you're...
Really? I thought I was sharing it this whole time. What happened? Oh my gosh. Hold on. Here it is. So I went through all of this. Here we go. All right. Then we'll go to this one first. Here's the Center for Disinformation. So I won't repeat everything I said about it.
Still not seeing it.
Really?
No. Are you hitting present?
Yeah, I did.
And then
I can hit stop sharing.
Yeah, hit stop sharing and try it again.
All right. I will hit sharing again. Share screen. And
let me see here. Yeah, try it.
Okay. I will try it. Select a file to share. Share. Did you see it?
There we go. Now it's up. Yep.
Okay. So this is the Ukrainian Center for Combating Disinformation, a list which I myself, Helga Tsepp-LaRouche, Scott Ritter, 30 speakers from a Schiller Institute conference were on. This is their list of reports where I think you can find the names of people on their list, the list of channels for the spread of enemy propaganda in the social network. And that is a feeder for this list. Mirot Foretz, this is the English translation, Peacemaker, which puts the pictures of the disinformation propagandists on them, and then after they kill you, they put liquidated over your face. And look at this. You can still see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they tell you on this how to upload people.
Oh, wait. No, you got to switch tabs. You got to change tabs. There's a button on top that says change tabs.
Okay.
There you go. Now I see it.
Thank you. Okay. So here is Mirot Foretz, or Peacemaker, telling you the rules for using the system. This shows you how you identify people, and they say since October 5th, 2019, every citizen of Ukraine has the opportunity to make not 3, but 25 per day using one device. And so you can get these little squares and find people. And they say, here we have how you do this. Russian Ksenia Sobchak, we took her preschool photo, compared it to her present photos. They're varying quality, and they're able to post pictures of people from their childhood showing how, and look at, they're so nice, Russian morons, murderers. So they tell you how to upload information. Here is their nice glory to Ukraine, death to the racist occupiers and enemies. Of course, the racists are the Ukrainians in this case. And then they tell you how to do this. And as I said earlier, once they eliminate someone, they put liquidated over them. So that is, let's see here. So I stopped sharing, right?
Yes.
And now they have a new list called Texty, which has 390 Americans on it, including myself, Scott Ritter, 112 congressmen, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump, anyone who says the obvious, which is Ukraine is losing the war. So I think the more that Ukraine is losing the war, the more dangerous the situation that we face is. And that is why people really should be working with our campaigns. But over to you, Jose.
No, absolutely. I think it only draws the fact that if anybody who's looking to get mobilized in one way or another to actually stop what's going on, the dictatorship, the censorship, and now what? We're hearing reports that the Ukrainians are in Russian territory now. Okay, there is an incursion happening in Russia where there are Ukrainian forces and boots on the ground in the territory of Russia. This thing has escalated to another echelon. And every time we think we can't get worse, it just continues to get absolutely worse. You know, and
that's the Kursk region. And I have to say, there's also nuclear power plants there.
Yeah. So, you know, this thing can get very ugly very, very quickly. And people really need to ask themselves, what are we prepared to do? What are you prepared to actually do to make sure that the earth continues to exist beyond the next few months? Because, you know, I mean, I'm under no illusions, and I don't think Diane is either. We may not even have an election because we may not even have people to vote in the election, let alone an honest election. And our campaigns are a voice of reason. I mean, our campaigns are getting international media coverage all the time. My interventions on people get reposted often. The last intervention that was reposted was the one that I did on Kamala Harris 3 years ago. And people have been, you know, using that video and reposting it and sharing it wide because, well, we don't have leadership right now, and Kamala Harris certainly isn't it. And we need something new. We need people to stand up again. I was asked on RT point blankly, do I believe that the people are less powerful than 8-pack and corporate lobbying? And I said, no, the people are more powerful than all the corporate lobbyists, but people have forgotten what it means to be an American. And if people remembered what it meant to be an American, we would have a government. We would actually have a government that people could know and trust and understand. And I think that's why you should mobilize with our campaigns. There's not a presidential campaign out there for somebody to latch onto where they can actually be, you know, completely correct on everything. But our campaigns are mobilizing uniquely in that we are running for federal office. We are asking people to join our campaign so that we can educate people on what it means to be an American again, because it's the only thing that's going to save our nation from it destroying itself and the world. Back to you, Diane.
Good. Well, that's it. I think that's a good place to wrap up. I would urge everyone to join us tomorrow night at 8:30, and they can find the link at votevega.nyc. And shortly, I'll put a registration page on the SareForSenate.com website as well.
All right. Awesome. Okay. We don't have an end card. So